sometime before you processed this vehicle, was there any discussions concerning Officer Christian?
Yes.
And can you tell the jury what that entailed?
Again, we were acting in a support role for the GBI, trying to assist them wherever we could in their investigation of this incident. At some point during the afternoon, and I don't recall exactly what the time frame was, it was still relatively early in the afternoon. We'd been on scene for a little while. Chief Lumpkin, not acting as a scene commander, but being on scene, had spoken with the GBI agents and officials on the scene and had asked that we make efforts as soon as possible, as soon as practical, and after our investigation of the scene was completed, that we make efforts to remove Officer Christian's body from the scene. We coordinated, and I say we, I mean myself and Detective Harold, Detective Stewart, Detective Schultz, and several other individuals. We coordinated to work with the coroner to make sure that we got the evidence we needed. We took care of what needed to be taken care of inside the car with the GBI, and after they had completed the evidence collection that they needed, we would remove Officer Christian's body from the car. Chief Lumpkin had noticed that he'd seen a helicopter flying over. He was concerned that might be a news helicopter. So we obtained some white sheets, I believe either from Coroner Wilson's van or from one of the ambulances that were on scene. And after Agent Rossler and Detective Harold had finished documenting and photographing inside Officer Christian's car, we held sheets up, basically to make a pathway for them to work so they could slide a stretcher and remove Officer Christian from the car and get him into the coroner's van for transport to the crime lab.
One moment. Three. Sergeant. Good morning, Sergeant.
Good morning.
Did you or anybody else touch this car before somebody touched Officer Christian? Did anybody touch his car or anything before y'all removed?
I'm not certain. We did not touch his car, but responding officers, when they were coming to check on him, may have touched it. But between the time we arrived on scene and the time we conducted our investigation and removal, to my knowledge, it was not touched.
You said with Agent Roger and Detective Harold processed Officer Christian's car before they removed the body. You said that, sir?
Well, yes, they got inside and took pictures.
Did you watch them? Did you know the procedure they took to do that?
I mean, I was present. I wasn't specifically observing them.
But you didn't touch them?
No, sir.
No more questions.
Your Honor, you may be subject to recall.
Thank you, sir.
They call Jim Schultz. You raise your right hand, please. You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give toward this matter of State versus Jamie Donnell Hood will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, help you God.
I do, sir.
Have a seat and please state your name for the jury, please.
My name is Jim Schultz.
And are you employed, sir?
Yes, sir, I am.
And where are you employed?
For the Athens Clark County Police Department.
And you're a law enforcement officer with them?
Yes, sir, I am.
How long have you been employed with the Athens Clark County Police Department at this point?
27 years this month.
And what is your current position and responsibilities with the department?
I'm currently assigned to the Forensics Division of the Athens Clark County Police Department.
How long have you worked in forensics altogether during your 27 years?
5 years.
Was that 5 years continuous, or there were different times that you had other assignments, or where you may have had a leave of absence from the department?
It was continuous except for a couple of deployments.
Deployments as part of some military training,
Yes,
military
sir.
operation?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And were you with forensics back in March of 2011?
Yes, sir. Actually, I had just returned from deployment.
And basically, in forensics, tell me what your job is and what your responsibilities are.
We respond to crime scenes. We process those scenes, taking photographs, checking for latent prints or fingerprints, and looking for any other evidence that might be on the scene.
And to collect any evidence on the scene at all?
Yes.
Okay. Speak up just a little bit if you can, sir.
Yes.
Now, if you will, in addition to working in forensics for the 5 years altogether there, did you have other assignments and responsibilities with the department during the other, I guess, 22 years?
Yes, sir.
You worked with them.
I have.
And tell us about that, if you will.
I was originally assigned to the Uniform Division, where I was a patrolman. After that, I worked at the downtown district, and to include bicycle patrol. I worked as a uniformed road supervisor. I've also worked in the evidence room, and I have worked in regular investigations.
Now, you mentioned deployment. Have you been in the service at all, the United States military service in some capacity?
Yes, I have.
And tell us about that, please.
For 12 years, I served in the United States Navy Reserve. I was a Master at Arms, which is a law enforcement specialist. I was also a physical security specialist and small arms instructor. I served 8 years in the United States Air Force Reserve, and I was a aerial reporter, which we run the airports in combat zones.
And you'd indicated you were in the Air Force Reserve. Did you also were in another branch of reserves as well?
Yes, sir. That was the Navy Reserve.
Okay, thank you. And you indicated you were deployed. Can you tell us about that, please?
Yes, sir. In 2001, approximately 6 days after 9/11, I was deployed to Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, until 2002. 2006, I was deployed to Afghanistan, and 2010 and 2011, I was deployed to Kyrgyzstan.
Now, where are you originally from, sir?
Here in Athens.
And in your family, was anybody employed with law enforcement here in Athens?
Yes, sir.
And who were they?
My father was a sergeant with the Athens Police Department. My uncle was assistant chief with the Athens Police Department.
And you grew up here in Athens, you said?
Yes, sir, I did.
What high school did you go to?
I went to Cedar Shoals High School.
When did you finish up?
I actually graduated in 1978 from Oglethorpe County High School. I went 1 year in Oglethorpe County.
And following high school, what did you do?
I went to work for Bragg Road Chevrolet, driving a parts truck.
And at some point, you went to work with the Athens Police Department, now the Athens Clark County Police Department.
Yes, sir, in 1988.
Are you
with Athens?
Do you have any children? Are you currently married?
I'm currently married. I have 2 children. They're both grown, and I have 5 grandkids.
Let me direct your attention to March the 22nd, 2011, that Tuesday. Were you working on that particular day, sir?
Yes, sir, I was.
And what was your shift of duty on that particular day? From what time to what time were you scheduled to work?
7:45 a.m. until 4 p.m.
At some point during that day, around 1 or after 1 o'clock in the afternoon, did you hear any kind of a call go out about an incident that occurred here in this community on Sycamore Drive?
Yes, sir. It's actually 1:21. I looked at my watch.
And what was it what was the nature of that call, please?
I overheard police radio traffic of officers calling for assistance. Shots fired, officers down.
And did you learn of the location?
I was advised, or I overheard it on Sycamore Drive. I wasn't sure until I got to the area where it actually was.
And after hearing that, did you respond to that area?
Immediately, I activated my emergency equipment and proceeded to the scene.
Do you know about how long it took you to arrive, sir?
Maybe 3 minutes.
And did you actually arrive on the scene there at Sycamore where all that may have happened?
Yes, sir, I did.
And tell us basically what it was that you saw and who you saw at the time. What was the scene like when you arrived?
When I arrived, I immediately saw in the second entrance to Cascades Apartments, there was a police vehicle sitting partially in the roadway. There was another police vehicle in front of it and then a red Suburban in front of it. I saw in both of these police vehicles were marked police units. As I exited my vehicle, I saw an individual lying on the ground being attended to by Sergeant Glenn Cowan and SPO, or Senior Police Officer, Jerry Johnson.
And who was that, sir?
The individual lying on the ground?
Yes, sir.
As I approached putting on my latex gloves, I saw that it was Tony Howard as I got up to it.
What else did you see and notice and do at that time, sir?
At that time, as I was putting on my gloves, I was getting ready to assist them. They were trying to stop the bleeding around his face. There was a large amount of blood on the asphalt. And as I was about to kneel down, Lieutenant Pat Whitmore yelled out, "I need help with Buddy." I immediately turned and ran with him, and he pointed down the road. I had not seen Buddy's car sitting in the middle of Sycamore Drive. We ran down there to the car, and I saw that the driver's side window was shattered.
The door closed.
The door was closed. The engine was still running. I saw 2 holes approximately this large in the windows. I opened the door, and SPO Buddy Christian was lying, kind of leaning over toward the center console of the vehicle. His left arm was lying wrist up on his left knee, and I could see blood in the area under his left arm.
In his chest area?
In the chest area, yes, sir. It was immediately above the vest and under the arm. I reached for his left arm, couldn't get a pulse. I placed my fingers on the left side of his neck, got no pulse there. I turned and looked at Lieutenant Whitmore and I said, "He's gone." At that point, Lieutenant Whitmore pointed to an area behind SPO Christian's left ear. There was an entrance wound, which appeared to be an entrance wound. There was also blood coming from that one little wound. Then, at that point, I looked up and saw EMS coming down, emergency response vehicles for the ambulance. The first truck went straight to Tony Howard. The next truck, I could hear it coming, and then I saw the truck coming. I ran up there, grabbed one of the EMTs, got him to come down with me, and he confirmed what we suspected. There was no signs of life with Buddy Christian. I asked him for a sheet, and I took the sheet back down, and as I started to cover Buddy's body, I looked over at his computer. On his computer screen, there were pictures of his family coming up on the computer, and pictures of Buddy. And that's when it really set in. At that point, I kind of came back. I left the door open after I covered Buddy up. And I started walking back up. toward where the EMTs were working with Tony. And another detective came down, and I stopped him, and he said, "Who was it?" And I said, "Buddy." At that point, I was kind of numb, couldn't do much else. The EMTs were already attending to Tony. They got Tony up, got him out of there. And at that point, I got crime scene tape and started taping off the area. Because I was advised that Agent Rossler with the Georgia Bureau of Investigation was on the way, and he would be processing the scene for us. So I went ahead and taped off the scene at that point.
Let me go back, if I can, when after Lieutenant Whitmore directed you down toward Officer Christian's car. When you went down there, it indicated the driver's side door was closed, and there were 2 holes in the driver's side glass. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
And can you show the jury, if you will, about what the size of those holes were, and perhaps describe the size for the record, if possible, if you can?
They're approximately this large, maybe 2.5, 3 inches. I did not measure them, so I'm just guesstimating.
2.5, 3 inches in diameter?
In diameter, yes, sir.
And can you tell us about where those holes were located in the window as best you can recall?
As best I can recall, they were, say this is the window, approximately this far apart. 6 to 8 inches maybe.
And do you recall about where they were located in the window at all?
Approximately center of the window.
Now, at some point, did you have an occasion to observe that window later and see that perhaps the condition of the glass was changed?
Yes, sir. As I said, the glass was shattered. So there were small fragments of glass, and when I first opened the door, there were a couple of small pieces of glass fell out. And as the door was getting bumped into, when we later removed SPO Christian from the car, the glass, if I recall correctly, pretty much fell completely out.
Now, you mentioned at that time that Officer Christian's car was running.
Yes, sir.
And the blue lights or siren going on at that time on this car?
At that time, the siren was not running. Blue lights, I don't recall, sir.
And, sir, if Officer Christian was an officer with the Athens County Police Department that day, was he not?
Yes, sir, and in full uniform.
Now, you mentioned about the removal of his body. Can you describe that a little bit further, sir?
When Agent Rossler had completed his investigation, taken the photos he needed to take, and completed other things he needed to do, myself, along with other members of the Athens County Police Department, requested permission to move my buddy from the car. There was a large sheet or tarpaulin, I don't recall which it was held up by other individuals, and myself and several other members of the police department removed Buddy from the car. I held his head as we laid him down. And then, after we had him laying down, Detective Jeff Harrell said a prayer. And then after that, we loaded Buddy up in the coroner's van. Coroner Wilson was on scene, and he also had helped us to remove Buddy.
You mentioned the sheet or the tarpaulin. What was that for? Why was it held up?
It was for privacy as we removed Buddy from the scene. We didn't want other people standing there staring at us while we did it.
Is that because there was a helicopter flying overhead at that time?
I don't recall if there was a helicopter or not. There were a lot of people standing around.
Yes. And after Buddy's body was removed, Did you remain at the scene with that car as well as Tony's car, Tony Howard's car?
Yes, sir, I did.
And how long did you stay, and what happened to Buddy's car as well as Tony's car?
After Buddy and Tony were removed from the scene, I went up and spread black powder, checking for latent prints on SPO Howard's car, Tony Howard's car. I did the right side of the vehicle, and then Detective Radford removed or lifted the actual prints that we were able to dust on the car. After that, I was still on the scene, helping Agent Rossler with anything he needed carried or anything, and then they had decided where the vehicles were to go. Both of the police vehicles went to the old sanitation department on College Avenue, and the red Suburban was transported to a storage building that was behind the police department at that time. And I directed the records to which vehicles needed to go where.
And were you there when both those vehicles, the patrol vehicles, were removed and taken over to the building of College Avenue that used to house part of the Athens Park County Sanitation Department?
Yes, I was.
Kind of a warehouse type building over there.
Yes, sir.
And were you there when the Suburban was removed as well and taken to the location you stated?
Yes, sir.
And anything else that you did that day, sir?
Not that I recall, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Schultz.
Good morning.
Mr. Schultz, on March 22nd, 2011, sir, did you have the radio on, sir?
Yes, I did.
Did you hear anything on your radio about the latest carjacking or kidnapping of John Brook that day, sir?
I did.
Could you tell us what you heard about that, sir?
The initial call came out that an individual had been seen jumping out of the trunk of a vehicle, and then that officers were to meet with that individual. At that point, a lookout was put out for the vehicle. At this moment, I do not recall what the vehicle was, and for other individuals that possibly had been involved.
Did you hear dispatch say anything about four males wearing, three wearing ski masks, carjacked John Brook at the red light right beside the picnic car? Did you hear dispatch say that to the officer on the road, sir?
I do not recall that.
Okay. Did you recall suspect Jamie Hood being on the radio in relation to this carjacking?
I do recall the name Jamie Hood being called on the radio.
When you heard that Jamie Hood name, what did you hear, sir?
Jamie Hood was a possible suspect in this incident, and that's all I remember about that.
Did they say anything about that I stay on Sycamore Drive, Jamie Hood stay on Sycamore Drive, all units Sycamore Drive, did you hear that?
I don't recall that.
Do you recall Officer Howard being on duty that day? You said you seen him laying on the ground. You said that, sir?
Yes, I did state that.
Okay. Did you hear Officer Howard get on his radio and tell all units that he was stopping this carjack suspect, Jamie Hood?
I heard him state he was stopping a red Suburban and possible suspect inside. I don't recall if he stated Jamie Hood or not.
So you actually heard Officer Howard come on the radio and say that he was putting over a red Suburban and a suspect in it?
A possible suspect.
What radio track did you listen at?
The Athens Clark County Police Radio, I don't recall which frequency it was on.
Did all other officers hear that? All conversation you were pulling that red SUV on?
I can't state whether they did or not.
But you heard them on that radio so you were pulling the red SUV over, to your recollection, sir.
As best as I recall, yes, sir.
Did he say a possible suspect was inside there?
I don't recall verbatim, but I believe he did state there was a possible suspect.
Now, when you agree that they were looking for our lady as a carjacking suspect, kidnapping them with his lady there, right?
The name Jamie Hood came up as a suspect in this incident of carjacking.
Okay. So are you familiar with Athens Clark County Police Department high-risk traffic stop protocols?
Yes.
Okay, could you explain to the jury your version of that, sir?
High-risk protocol, we suspected an individual was possibly armed and would use that weapon. In most cases, there will be two vehicles in a perfect situation. One vehicle will pull behind the suspect vehicle at not exactly a straight-on angle, but slightly cantered so that the motor of the vehicle is in between that officer and his suspect. The other vehicle will come approximately at a 45-degree angle and will be able to see the side of the driver's side of the vehicle. Both officers will draw their weapons and be prepared should that individual exit the vehicle and begin to become aggressive toward the officer. The officer who initiates the stop is the officer who calls out over the PA advising whatever suspect it is to exit the vehicle. And at that point, that officer calling shots at that point will have that individual step back, possibly prone out on the ground, and then take them into custody or detain them at that point.
Do that officer have a duty to call central communication to get these? Wait just a moment. Right here. Okay. Stop.
You okay? Is it? Do we need to stop for a while and go to lunch?